We appreciate your patience. We have a little technical difficulties here. Before we start things, I'd like everyone to stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, thanks everyone for coming out. Brian Baker, who used to be the business manager of Local 129, he was also a legislative director for the electricians union down in Columbus, or actually in Washington, D.C. Will be our MC, so I'm going to turn this all over to Brother Brian Baker.
Thank you, Ronnie. First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. We know that the congressman most likely is not going to show up. I think we all know that. The one piece that I would say, though, is if anybody went to Tim Walz's rally, he had a rally last week, and I think it was very well put together. But what he said was very interesting, and from my experience being in D.C., he said Bob Latta is making a very big mistake by not showing up to his constituents' meetings. And I think what we need to do tonight is, Robin and Ron, Jimmy, everybody's put together a little bit of a program here for us to talk about. We have someone here from AFG talking about what he's doing to the working class people. And I think what we see in this country is that is what's happening. They have from DC all the way down, they don't care about people right now. They care about millionaires. They care about what's happening there. And we've seen stuff decimate. There's a gentleman in the back room, Mike Sherman. Him and I go to almost every commissioner meeting here in Lorraine County. I think it was 2 weeks ago, Bob Latta just approved his lease on his office. It's up on the 5th floor in the Lorraine County County Administration Building. He's not been in that office one time since he's opened up his lease. The only thing, and it's even interesting, we start talking about having this town hall meeting tonight. I have a daughter, she's on the school board in Lorraine. She got a call yesterday from him to join his town hall meeting online yesterday, but it wasn't put out to anybody. So what he does, and then she said, Dad, do you want to get on this? And I said, no, I'm not going to get on it because they're going to screen the questions. They're going to give us an answer that is what? It's going to be, and I don't want to say it, it's just DC bullshit. I don't mean to say it that way, but that's really what it is. But what I would say to all of us in here is, and this is what's going to make it change, a room like this. People doing this and holding them accountable. I would recommend that everybody, if you go on, sign up for his emails. I mean, I know we don't want to do it. We don't want to show him that. I had a question for him. When I was in D.C., I had to get my security clearance. It takes you about 10 weeks. And they really put you through the ringer. I mean, you have to put down all the way back to where you went to kindergarten. You have to put down family members. You have to put down someone that's not a family member. And they call all those people. And my first piece that I asked, I sent it to Congressman Latta, and I asked him, I said, can you tell me if Elon Musk and Doge have all got their security clearance? Because they had it one day after the inauguration. I said, so where is their piece? I got a form letter back. It did not answer my question, which I knew that was going to happen. But what everybody has to remember in here is they have access, especially if anybody's here is drawing a Social Security check or a railroad retirement or anything, they have access to all your personal information. And to do that, they should have to have the security clearance to go with it. And I got it. My security clearance was just because of trade agreements. And they put me through the ringer. I mean, they took me in a room down in this basement that was dark. I was like, holy smokes, I just want to read this paper. I don't need anything else. But when you go down there, that is a tough thing. Yes, sir.
Why do they want that information?
Why do they want it? Because they want to see if you're in this room tonight and they want to come back after. I mean, I don't say that in a bad way, but I think we all have to pay attention to that. And if you watch what they've done is, he didn't win by a landslide, we all know that, okay? But everything that they say is what? They say, this was a directive from the people, we wanted a landslide election, so that's why we're doing all of this. That is not what they're doing. And until people start standing up to take that back on, like rooms in here. I'm going to turn it over to Robin for a minute. She has been the one that contacted the congressman's office, correct, Robin?
Correct.
She's going to talk a little bit about that, and then she's going to talk a little bit about our process as we go through. I have my cell phone here with how we're going to work through it because the computer might not be up. What I would say to anybody in here is, don't be afraid to send them a letter. Don't be afraid. And here's why I say that is. Because the first thing that they're going to say is, we've heard from nobody. And when they say, I mean, we can come to these meetings, but they're going to say, I checked all my emails, I only got 5 emails the last 2 months. And I think that we need to work at that as us. So if we just hold on a minute and then we'll get it, I'm going to... Yes, ma'am. Correct. But there are a lot of people in this room that can speak up for you, including me, because I'm retired. I mean, I'm drawing my railroad retirement, so the only thing else they could do is they could maybe slow my payment down. Eventually, I'm going to figure out how to get it. But what I would say is there's a lot of people in this room, and we should make sure we let our voices be heard. And there's a lot of, I know a lot of people in here, I don't know everybody in here, but I do see a lot of familiar faces. And there's not too many people bashful here, because if you look at this room and you look at the age in here, we've all had these fights for a long time. And I'll just tell you is, I'm a registered Democrat, but I don't care to fight with a Democrat, an independent, or a Republican if they go after the working class. I will tell everybody in here, and I've done it. I've done it in Washington, D.C. I've done it here in Lorraine County. And since I've moved home, it's a little less that I argue with the Democrats because the Republicans have taken more charge here. But if we don't stand up and go there, we don't stand up and go talk, who's going to stand up for us?
That's right.
And I just say that to you. I do understand your point, though. As a current employee, you put something there, they know as soon as you do it. I do realize that, ma'am. But if we can find out pieces that we might be able to talk for you on your behalf, because we don't understand exactly what they're doing, that would be very helpful. And I think Robin has some things to do at the end when we get to the end of the program. Hopefully we can address your issue. But I think everybody in this room does understand what you're saying. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Robin. I'm going to try to study my cell phone here, and hopefully by that time we're going to get something up on the screen. But if we don't, we're going to get through this tonight. And I think that at the end, we're going to let Congressman Latta know that he should be addressing our issues. Whether we voted for him or didn't vote for him, he's our representative from this area, and he should take care of the constituents of this area. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rob.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for coming tonight. I'm really pleased to see how many people have cared to come out, knowing that he might not be here. This night is dedicated to him, whether he's here or whether he's not. This evening has a purpose, and we will be doing some effective activities near the end of the program. You have some great guest speakers that's going to be up here from labor, and they can give you the most updated information that is happening with the government unions, with a lot of the departments that we have all come to know and rely on, and some information about Social Security and privatization of some of our government agencies that we rely on. And yeah, that's not the way to go. I'm going to scooch over here real quick because I had some notes that I wanted to look at. Oh, thank you. Maybe we can switch spots.
Sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know, right? Sorry about the technical difficulties. This always works, but obviously tonight being an important night, it didn't. If those of you, just some housekeeping, the restrooms are through those double doors there. If you need to use the restrooms, they're there and to the right. There's drinks available, and I know some of you have smelled that popcorn. Thank you so much, Martin, back there doing that. Everybody here is going to get a chance to express themselves or have a comment that they want to get to Bob Latta, and I can promise you that. One of our first guest speakers is going to be Mike Murphy, and before we go there, I just wanted to real quick set the pace. As I said, this evening is dedicated to Bob Latta. His father was a congressman before him for 30 years, and now he is in that position. He's a Christian. He's Catholic, and this is Holy Week. So if he understands the importance of this week, the words Hosanna means save us. And I just want to point out 3 things to Mr. Latta, even though he's not here. I'm hoping that he gets the message. Number 1, you serve a righteous God. And he has spoke about the wealthy and those with the love of money. And the Savior didn't come here in a palace. He was the son of a carpenter. So I just want to make sure that Bob knows that if he needs reminded that that's a person, the entity that he serves. Number 2, he took an oath. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So he has taken an oath in his position to protect our Constitution, our country, and us. And lastly, he took this position as our House representative in Washington, D.C., to listen to his constituents. And that's what in his biography online, he says, hearing from constituents is essential to representing them. But where is he? He sent me an email about tonight, and he says, we are not concerned with coming to orchestrate disruption. This is not disruption. This is actually, sir, we need to talk to you. We need to know that you're listening. In his biography, it says he's an advocate he advocates the interests of the people, economic prosperity, and job creation. Yeah, and in the meantime, you are allowing Trump and Musk to eliminate our jobs recklessly, hurting families and communities. Unions are economic prosperity, you know. So another thing that I pulled from his biography was top priorities: improving access to broadband, reducing government spending, strong national defense. Is it hedge stuff? You know, that's substance use crisis. You are causing more of a substance use crisis. Common sense government reforms. So that I pulled from his biography. Steadfast advocate for our nation's veterans. If he is supporting DOGE and what they are doing, that is not true. What they're doing is they're hurting our veterans and their jobs. I know Steve, if he gets a chance to come up, he can talk to you about some of the folks that have lost their job that are veterans, disabled veterans. And lastly, he plays an intricate role in telecommunications, the environment, and healthcare. Right now, we're in the middle of losing OSHA as we know it. Our healthcare, you know, you've heard about the $880 billion that there might be cutting. And what about all the good government jobs people are losing that had healthcare? And so these things I just want to remind Bob Latta who he is, because if he doesn't serve his higher God, if he's not going to uphold our Constitution, and if he's not going to be here to listen to us and hear our pleas, you know, like I said, Hosanna means save us, you know, and so who are you then?
He's serving his God, Robin. It's the orange God.
Yeah, you know, and just to say, I mean, I can't imagine, I'm sure that he is under a lot of stress. If he is, you know, a lot of fear in where he's at. So I have to look at him as a human being and almost wonder, how would I be if I was in his position with all of those people? He has a choice. He has a choice. Okay, I would like to bring to the front Mr. Mike Murphy. He is the president of AFGE. Mike, what's your local again?
3448.
3448. And he is with the American Federation of Government Employees.
Thank you. You can hear me? Good? Can you hear me better if I speak out loud? Yeah. I prefer that. And I'm from Youngstown. I'm kind of loud anyways. So I represent 56 field offices in the state of Ohio. And I also work in the Youngstown field office for Social Security. And we have one teleservice center. Now, to start off, our agency serves everybody from cradle to grave. Any moment in our lobby could be a newborn, and it could be somebody, you know, almost 100 years old, inquiring about their benefits or needing some kind of service. 20% of Ohioans are on a disability, retirement, auxiliary, or widow's benefit from Social Security. That's actual Social Security payments. That's not counting SSI, the needs-based program. Recently, I would tell you, and the commissioner will become, the former commissioner for Biden will be coming next week in Cleveland, O'Malley. He and the other commissioner, Astrew, who was under Bush, had a meeting last month talking about the destruction that the Doge team and Musk has caused to the Social Security, to the point where he's raising the alarm saying that there may be benefit disruptions. 20% of your community receives a Social Security payment. People are going to have to decide whether to pay rent or pay for food. Are you ready to take your grandparents in? Are you ready to take somebody in who's disabled and that were on their own and no longer can? These proposed cuts to Medicaid, those folks who live under a certain, only receive Social Security and under a certain level, the state of Ohio is paying their premium for Medicare. That's $184 a month. If they cut that program, that's another $184 coming out of these folks. Checks, monthly checks, and they're hardly getting by now. They've already cut their food stamps or anything else. So think of the seniors that might be in your life or your neighbors that are struggling now already, and there'll be further cuts. And then it was spoken to about how each and every one of your information was released to the Doge team. They have your bank accounts. They have your name, your date of birth. And you know why? Because it's a heist. These billionaires come in and wreck companies. They come in fast, wreck it as quick as they can, and then they rob it. The only retirement investment that did not lose any money last week in the stock market was Social Security. That hasn't changed. Well, it will change once they get their money. If they want to privatize it. The employees I have now, I would say they're demoralized, we're traumatized, terrorized. We ran out of paper in our office, and that's not just our office. We ran out of paper and envelopes and copier ink because they cut all our credit cards in the restructuring. So we can't even administratively serve the public. And I would tell you that you should all call Latta's office. And if any of you are here from the outskirts or have relatives in other areas, I would encourage you to go on things like Blue Sky and follow the people who are supporting you in Social Security. That would be Representative Sykes in Akron. That would be Chantel Brown in Cleveland. And there's Representative Joyce in Columbus and What was the last one, Steve?
Captain.
Lansing down in Cincinnati. We only have 4 advocates. The senators aren't even taking their call. Houston doesn't even have a local office. I have Wood. He won't show up, and he is even more antagonizing towards us, saying that none of us who are protesting are actually from Youngstown. No one comes to Youngstown for entertainment. Trust me, I'm born and raised there. No one's just coming there. We're not paid performers. How many of you folks were at the April 5th rally? Raise your hand. We need more of you. Yes, I've heard folks say, and I had this discussion with Tim Walls at the UAW. We all had a round table about it. Old folks need to be in the streets now. The people of color have done their job. And if you have kids show up there, what do the police do when it's kids and people of color? They come with tear gas in them. Let's see them try to tear gas senior, when you see the April 5th things on Blue Sky, most of the crowds were white. They were in the streets. No one attacked them.
Right.
So it's an uncomfortable conversation, and it's about race, but people have to. You all have to get in the street. We have to have 5% of us to represent what's going on here. And they're going to deeply impact your benefit. If they give it away, we will all be impacted.
Which is why I think you're limiting your office audience with what you're saying right there. It's not just the old people.
No, it's not just old people.
People like me, middle-aged people who are working, because, don't take this the wrong way. When everybody's like, what's the Social Security? I don't get Social Security. I don't care.
But you're going to be eligible for disability or something.
Someday it's going to be you. If we don't get some sort of reform on Social Security, the $168,000 cap, my brothers laugh about the fact that they hit the
You're kind of ahead of me. I was going to bring it up that there is no raising of the cap. If they raise the cap on Social Security, it would make it solvable.
Solve your insolvency problem. That's it. But that's something else that we need to be out there demanding.
And it's something.
Thank you. Let him finish, and then we'll let you speak. Let him finish, and then we'll let you speak.
Now, this is something that we go to the Hill and advocate. We advocate once a year on raising the cap. It's been something we pushed, but it's something they don't want to do. Because Congressman Latta doesn't serve the public. He's not a public servant. He serves private interest. And he's serving these millionaires. And the average Social Security recipient, monthly, they live on $64 a day. Musk, Bezos, and all of them get $7 million a day. And by noon, they have already covered their obligation for the cap. For the first hour, they've covered their obligation for the cap and pay no more in. This is a successful retirement program. It's lifted people up. And while they're some people, I have peers that I work with that I've lived on both sides of the tribe. And I keep trying to tell them. Now they're like, when they come to me, they're like, well, we didn't know this was going to happen. I usually say they don't listen. But then I follow up and say, you don't listen, and now do you realize he lied to you? So those of you, when you go back into your community, to your loved ones and the family members who are on the other side of the fence, as their turn and the barrel comes up, don't say, we told you so. Yes, I really want to tell a lot of people they told you so, but what you should say to them is, he lied to you. Now we need your voice because they're going to take what you've earned. We've all paid into Social Security. We've all paid into Medicare, and they're there to take it. And that's what I'm trying to send the warning of. And she talked about how Latta has fear. I'm a federal employee. Every Monday I have to report what I did, the 5 things, with the threat that they're going to put it in AI to see if I really did it. So we're living terrorized. Latta, it's his job. He is a public servant. And if he fears doing his job, he should find another job. Just like Ruley in my district. My district comes from a grocery chain. He should go back to bagging groceries if he's too afraid to meet with us. So we're facing this from every Republican representative who refuses to meet with us because they're terrified. Even Senator Murkowski said today, a Republican senator from Alaska, saying, us in the GOP live in fear of reprisal. We were all being retaliated against. We're counting on you to be the public service and save us. At least she had the nerve to step up and say, there's reprisal against us. Well, the rest of the public, the rest of us are, and Tim Walz, if any of you heard him speak in Lorraine, saying that if the legislative is not going to hold up, the judiciary is not going to hold up, we the people are the last step. So if you see an event, an indivisible event, the 51 projects, I think there's one on the 19th in downtown Cleveland, get to those. If any of you are willing to show up at your local Social Security office on a Wednesday just to carry a sign around lunchtime, I recommend that you have a fake bake sale as people come up to your desk, give them the cookie, but also tell them what's going to happen to their benefits. They already did that in Grand Rapids. It was a grassroots movement. All the local neighbors come up and they protested every week because they know what kind of good service they got on Social Security. Right. My employers are dedicated. They're so dedicated. Sometimes they've asked me to file grievances over a particular policy of the agency, and I'm like, I can't file a grievance over how the agency treats the public. I can only treat, that's how dedicated they are to saying this policy is going to hurt the public. I'm like, I represent you in the contract, not the public. That's how dedicated these folks are. And we live and work with the pain in the public every day. So I remind you that the attacks are not going to stop coming. If any of you on Blue Sky, get off of Twitter, go to Blue Sky.
Never been on Twitter.
Then start following your social medias of the people who are supporting you. But we need you all to be representative of your community, especially those who are receiving benefits already, because they're going to cut your check. For example, is how, and it's not going to cut they might cut your check just because they came in, we went on COBOL. Some of you are old enough to know COBOL was taught in the 80s and 90s, and that's the last time it was taught. It's not even taught anymore, which makes our system antiquated. However, no one can hack it because no one knows how to do it. That's why these kids came in there and said, you have people on here who are 120 years old getting checks. No, they weren't. Their disabled adult child who may have Down syndrome is 65 now and still collecting on his dead parent's record as a disabled adult child. They can't even read the code properly. That's why they're saying that. If any of you have come into the Social Security office, the first thing we do is see where you were born. We ask you your date of birth, where you were born. That is such a fallacy that they're saying that the immigrants are taking your checks. No one's taking your check. The only immigrant taking your check will be Musk.
Right. That's right. Yep. True.
I had an argument with somebody on the Trump site today. I infiltrated that, no, let me see, Joe Biden did not give immigrants social security numbers.
Look, we do give working Social Security numbers to students who come in to work at your local university. They're a non-paying Social Security number.
Yeah, they said he just handed it out to everybody and they're all getting checks. And I'm like, how stupid can you possibly be?
Oh, no, I know it's tempting to talk about their questions, but that's the point. They want to drive us against one another so they can rob us blind. So, but I'm telling you, all of your voices are needed, and to call the folks that who support you. You should continue to call Latta's office, and if he's not going to answer the phone, I recommend you write him a letter once a week and clog up they have to open up all those letters. I think the White House is already behind 34,000 letters. Today. So call them.
We all do certified letters. No. That way we have proof that they received it. So they get
What's the matter? You're still supporting the post office. So the one other thing I want to speak to, Steve was slated to speak. I want to speak. We'll speak. Okay, good. So I don't have to cover the VA things. Certainly.
This is a question raised to work with Social Security. I was an employee, but I was a federal employee. And I have to tell you, Ohio has some of the outstanding representatives in Social Security. anywhere. At one time, there was what they call administrative law judges that would decide whether you could get a dispute if you were disabled or not. And at one time, Ohio and Oregon were tied back and forth for the biggest backlog of people waiting down disability roles. And around 2010, I think it was petitioned for, and we got 2 brand new offices of adjudication in Toledo and
downtown.
The other one. And those brought us up. It took a couple of years to get them really moving and all, but the backlog cleared. They're some of the best employees. I consider them cohorts.
By the way, we're at our lowest staffing level in the last 50 years. I used to say since 2009, but now we're even more devastated. And the computers are not really taking over. They expect everybody to get on their phone and do their business on the phone. Not everybody's capable. We have people who have we have people with disabilities that aren't able to get on the system. They have financial and economic things, stopping them from being able to use the internet and getting online. And they want to close your field offices. You have everybody now on average has one that's no more than 45 minutes away from them across the United States. If they start cutting them, you're going to have to drive farther to get your business resolved. And the next step is they want everybody to start bringing in their photo ID to prove who they are, even though you've been paid for years. This is all a game to them. So I am pleading with you that this is something that's an integral part of your community. If you're a small businessman, you're going to be impacted if people get their checks cut. If you have a loved one on Social Security, you are going to be impacted. Everybody here is going to be impacted, and they need you all to be aware that this is something that we all need to actively engage in. Any help or calls or letters that you can provide me and my employees that I represent, I would greatly appreciate it. And I thank you for having me here today.
I will say one thing. So if anybody, he touched on it a little bit. So we have 3 branches of government. We all know that. The legislative is doing 0.
Right.
The administration is doing everything to kill us. And then we have the judicial. We have won, these guys have won numerous cases at the federal judge's level. They go to appeals, and you guys have done okay. If you watch what's happening now is the Supreme Court rules on the probationary employees says now they all got to go, right, from AFG. But on the other side is we're supposed to bring a gentleman back from El Salvador, and they ruled that he's supposed to do it, but the administration doesn't want to abide by it.
Right.
So the hard part about, and I do feel for you guys because we thought we were going to get to the judicial side of it, and that's where we hoped it was going to get fixed. But they're not even abiding by it, and it's going to be a problem. So if they pick and choose on something like that, they're going to decimate these guys. They're going to decimate the Department of Education. People in this room, from labor unions, we rely on the FMCS for certain contracts. Completely gutted the whole department, did away with it. I don't know if you guys saw, I think it's USAID, right? Is that?
Yes.
I don't know if you saw the guy that dismantled him, he now resigned from the State Department as of the end of this week. He came in, he did his dirty work, and now he's leaving. So like if we think that we're gonna even get this thing through the court system, I always thought whoever gets Supreme Court, he owns it. But we have got okay rulings because they're ruling off the law. But that's not going to last. So, Mike, I do commend you guys for your fight. You guys have a hell of a fight ahead of you, and hopefully we can help support it. We know that Bob Latta is not, but I still think that we should ask him, whether it's in a letter, like you said, we should tell him, listen, fund us. It's been appropriated. The money's there. You're supposed to give it to him. And I think that we as citizens should be doing that. So again, thank you very much for coming tonight. I'm going to bring Steve up. And Steve, I'm not going to, I hope I get Capizzi. Capizzi, I did get it better than I thought. So he comes out of the VA, correct, Steve? I said, you're from the VA, Steve?
Well, I'm with AFG now, with you, I came from the VA.
But see, he come out of the VA, so you start to think about this, is all the people to protect to give us all of our freedoms, now they want to take all that away too. And to me, I mean, I never served. I got into a time where they didn't want people in the military, okay? But I've always supported the veterans because the veterans gave me my freedom. They gave me the right to do everything I did. They gave me the right to organize. They gave me all those rights. I would tell everybody in here, whenever there's a veterans event, we all go to it, we all support it, that's what we should be doing. This gentleman's going to tell you what they're doing, and they're decimating them. I think Cleveland, and I think you're going to talk about that, I hope, right?
Yeah, I'll talk.
Okay, that's good. So Steve, I'm not going to take any of your time and let you go on here, but thank you very much for coming.
Appreciate it. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Baker. And thank you for having me. Thank you, Robin. All the hard work you put into this. And everybody else, too. What I want to say is one of the things, is this microphone on? Yeah. It is, okay. Okay, one of the things I'm most proud of as an AFGE leader is people like Michael, people like our VA leaders, whenever they talk about fighting for the workers, are always talking about fighting for the public, the veterans we serve, the seniors we serve in Social Security, and the disabled we serve, as Michael had mentioned. So I really do appreciate that, and that's one of the things that's most proud of me, being a member of AFGE. So I'm going to go in, I'm not going to talk too long, but I do want to say that last couple weeks ago, Trump administration just unilaterally with an executive order just signed an executive order taking away, stripping collective bargaining rights of 700,000 federal workers. That's Department of Defense, that's VA, that's Department of Education, and so forth. And TSA, he did that beforehand. He did say it was because of national security, which is not true. So, what can we do? What I'm going to ask everybody to do is, this is one of my asks, HR 2550 is Protect America's Workforce Act. That's going to reverse that executive order. Here's the good news. We already got 5 Republicans on board, including Michael Turner from Ohio. So I did want to make sure I talked about that. Now, VA specifically, they're talking about cutting 83,000 VA jobs. So, I'm a veteran, I get all my care at the VA. I love my health care. My dad's also a veteran, gets all his care at the VA. We both love our care. Their goal, like everything, they're trying to destroy Social Security. What's their goal? They're trying to destroy everything. TSA, people that have kept us safe since 9/11, their goal is to privatize it. They ain't gonna save us as taxpayers any more money. Not at all. It's just gonna give contracts. I think Social Security's budget, the cost is like 0.5% is what the administrative cost of Social Security. You bring in these private companies, they're going to be charging upwards of 20%.
Right.
And as we know that. Medicare, same thing. What is it, 2-3%? So that's what I want to get across. It's not going to save us a penny. We know that. Doge ain't looking to save money. They're looking to pad their pockets. And what I also want to add, the VA. My last job was a vocational counselor at the VA. One of the things I did a lot was get a lot of veterans employment. A lot of disabled veterans trying to get their lives back on track. 1/3 of the VA employees are veterans. I think around 25% of federal workers overall are veterans, many disabled. We're going to be seeing the largest mass firing of veterans in the history of this country. And I want to make sure everybody knows that when they do make their calls to their congressman. What else do I want to talk about? Okay, so I'm going to end with a quick story. So, I was in Dayton, Ohio, a couple months ago. You guys all remember when they were talking about Trump was firing probationary employees from all the agencies?
Yeah.
Okay, so I come in, we were doing organizing that day at the Dayton VA. And there's a young man that came in. he was actually pretty calm, but he said, I just got fired. And when I say probationary, it's not because they did anything wrong. It's like anytime somebody starts their job, they're on what's called probation at the federal government. Some jobs are 1 year, some are 2. His was 1 year. So he literally, his anniversary of 1 year was coming up like literally the next day. He comes in that day and he's locked out of his computer. Then he actually, his supervisor literally brought him down. His supervisor was almost in tears. Said, we're losing a good worker here. He was fired. He got a letter to add more insult to injury that said it was performance-based. Right. Which we know is not true because he had a mid-year evaluation that said he was an exceptional worker. And he never had any write-ups. He was a supply worker. Granted, I said he was a disabled veteran. Got to talking to the young man more. He had served in Afghanistan. He had 2 young daughters, a wife, and a new mortgage. And like I said, he was calm. I was irate. I called Bernie Moreno's office. I got a hold of the Columbus office, actually. I talked to somebody, and I said, can you talk to this man? He goes, yeah, I'll talk to him. But the thing was, when he told me, this guy from Bernie Moreno's office, his name's Dan Ward from Columbus office. He's director of constituent services. He said to me, what do you want us to do? We're not the VA, we're not the agency, we're not the White House. Yeah, and this is just, yeah, and I'm thinking, you're the most powerful person in Ohio as a U.S. Senator. I mean, really, maybe the governor and the senators are they're the most powerful people. And he had nothing. And I said, will you meet with him? I said, I demand Bernie Moreno meet with these workers and tell them that their performance isn't up to par.
Right.
He said, well, I can tell you, sir, that's not going to happen. The senator's pretty busy. And I said, okay. I figured that was going to be the answer. And I said, well, that's not the answer. I know that's not the answer I got from Sherrod Brown. But that's beside the point. Yes, ma'am.
At the beginning of this whole nightmare, some of us went to Bernie Moreno's office, and we did get up to see this little staffer, Max, and ask him all kinds of questions, and, we kind of surprised him. But, yeah, I guess on Tuesdays, we're going to get to meet with the staffer now.
Oh.
And, yeah, I just saw it on social media, I think yesterday.
That's at the Cleveland office?
Yeah, that is at the Cleveland office in the federal building, which I guess you have to, make sure you have your ID and sign in and have your question all written out, hand it to them when you walk in and all that nonsense. But if anybody wants to show up and just protest with some signs against him, because I know they're not going to let them.
That's Tuesday.
Yeah, it was Tuesday.
Okay. So Tuesday at Moreno's office at the courthouse building by Tower City.
Federal building, I believe it's at 10 a.m.
Stokes Courthouse, behind Tower City.
Yeah, you get off at Tower City Rapid, and then you go
Excellent.
there's a bridge to get to it from the public square.
Yes.
You go through the bridge, and you have to walk.
It's along the river pretty much, you can see it, they say Tower City. Yeah. Oh, yeah, HR 2550. And, yes, ma'am.
Yes, the probationary workers, from what I understand, a friend of mine, her husband is a probationary federal worker, but many of those people are not new people. They are people who have been promoted. Right. Was back with probationary. He had been in there for 14 years. And because he was in that probationary period, they let him go.
He got promoted by doing good work, and he lost his job because he had to do a new probation period. Now, some of those jobs we did save. The union was able to save. Some of those workers, because the court said, you got to bring them back. It's illegal firing. They brought them back. They put them on administrative leave. which helped because it helped them buy more time. But then the Supreme Court said it's okay to fire them, so a lot of them lost their job again. So it's more jerking around, and that's the heartbreaking part of this thing. So I do want to add too that a lot of people might say, oh, it's just federal workers, what they're doing, it to public sector workers. They're testing it all out. We're just the easiest targets. So they're coming after everybody. Dues collection. They're trying to pass Paycheck Protection Acts to prevent any company from withholding dues from members. So I definitely want to make sure everybody's aware of that. One more thing you can do, I don't want to take up much more of your time, but if anybody wants to help, an easy way to help is, if you got pens to write this down or see me after, text this number, 59129, 59129, and just text the word AFGE. You're going to get some text alerts from us, and what it's going to do is just going to, whenever there's an action like this HR 2550, it's going to go ahead and give you, it's going to make it real easy. You just tap down on it, and you sign the email, and it'll send it to your member of Congress wherever you live. And yeah, I'm going to repeat that. The phone number is 59129. And we're texting the word AFGE. AFGE. The targets we have right now, does anybody live in Max Miller's district? Probably, oh, Robin does, yeah. So that's the one target we think we might be able to get, because he has a lot of union members in his district, possibly Dave Joyce. Those are the targets. And if anybody lives near Toledo area, we're going to be out Tuesday the 22nd. Congresswoman Capter's coming out at the VA. We're doing a protest rally to thank VA workers and to stand up for veterans outside the VA on South Detroit Road. And I'm just telling you this, folks. With these cuts to the VA, veterans care is going to suffer. I worked in a homeless program. I'm just going to say it. This is veteran homelessness and veteran suicides are going to go up. So remember that. There's a number, 22. You might see a lot of veterans wear it. That's a number of veteran suicides every single day in this country. The key thing to remember is most of those veterans have never even stepped foot in the VA. So if we could get them veterans, if we could get the veterans to the VA, engage in the great services that we still have, that we hope we don't lose, we can prevent that. Thank you all for your time, and that's all I got. Great way to start.
All right, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Michael McMillan. I'm the president of North Ridgeville Education Association. I'm actually here on behalf of not just the teachers, but the students too, who do not have a voice in anything that is going on right now, and it is totally affecting them. So we need to be their voice. Okay? The threat of removing federal funding hurts kids. That's blatantly obvious to people with intelligence or people who have common sense. I wish I could say that is prevalent in today's society, but every time I turn on the news, and it doesn't matter which news, which side, whether you're Democrat or Republican, it just seems like stupidity is a bigger disease and rampant virus more than COVID. Okay? I don't know how we got to that point. As an educator, I apologize. I'm sorry, because every day I go to work, I have to fight that notion to be like, am I really making a difference? I know I am, but it's hard when you step out of your classroom and back into the regular world. You're just like, holy shit.
Yep. No support.
No support, right?
Yeah.
Teaching is a great job. I love teaching. I tell my students every day, or at least, every time they all come in, I get new groups because I'm an art teacher, so I get to see the whole gamut of all the kids. I tell them I teach for free, and they pay me to put up with the BS in education that's outside of the classroom. And that's what happens, okay? Students in every school district, in every community, in every state rely on federal funding for public schools. Now, it may only be a 10% funding, but that 10% it covers a lot of things. It covers the less, the low income, it covers the less fortunate, it covers the disabled. That federal money was basically a promise to say everybody deserves a fair shot in America in the public school system. Wasn't that one of the things the founding fathers had for us? They wanted an educated public. They don't want an educated public now. They want a public that can be manipulated, right? They question anything and everything that teachers do in the classroom. The most egregious thing I think I've seen some of my teachers do in this society right now is actually use they, them pronouns, which doesn't necessarily amount to much, but it just makes the kids feel a little better. We're not doing sex changes. We're not in the classroom. We are not promoting kids to do all these crazy things. The media is just gone plumb dumb crazy.
Right.
Okay? And you have to believe us that in the education world, we just want to take care of the kids. So, not only does it hurt the kids who don't have a voice to be able to say, this sucks, right? It hurts the community because it shifts the burden of paying the taxpayer services even more at the local level. Okay? The burden of paying these services ultimately falls on the local taxpayer because Ohio does levies. Okay? So when Ohio does levy, what does the education face from the current situation in D.C.? We've got a two-front war in education. Okay? We have a federal one who doesn't pay a lot into our local system, but they disrupt it as much as they can. About 90% of the disruptions come from federal and state levels. It's not the local level, right? But yet they only pay 10%, they only pay, whatever else the state pays. I don't even know what the percentage is, but local taxpayers pay about 50 to 70% of the bill to teach their kids in their own districts. But what are we facing? We're facing the elimination of the Department of Education, as well as many other agencies that help, impoverished, minority, low income, middle class, right? Even in some cases, some upper middle class and lower upper class, right? We've seen the appointment of Linda McMahon as its Secretary of Education. She doesn't even know the difference between A1 steak sauce and AI. I honestly think maybe she got brain damage when the Undertaker pile drived her several years ago. I know it's all fake, but maybe that happened. Maybe there was some damage, right? I have students who fear every day the threat of deportation, whether they're legal citizens or legal aliens. In my classes, they have a fear that somebody's going to run in there and take them, or they're not going to be able to go home because their parents are going to be gone. We see gutting the government programs that help U.S. citizens maintain their lives. Okay? The loss of liberties and rights such as collective bargaining, due process, these things. I am a life member of the NRA, right? National Riflemen's Association. I find it interesting how fast they shut up when Bondi started talking about taking away, guns without due process. They just went dead silent. And that is appalling. School shootings used to be the headline of news for literally the first 20 minutes of the newscast. Now it might be third or fourth on the list because of the craziness that we're seeing in our government.
It was number one today.
What's that? Well, and here's the thing. I was so busy teaching, I didn't even hear about that one. But it's sad when, that used to be, oh my God, we have this major crisis. And right now, that crisis didn't go away. It is just flooded with a tsunami of other things that are happening that are just so crazy, it's unbelievable. Okay? Saw this gentleman when I walked in, right? The attempt to commandeer institutions like Harvard. He couldn't even run his own college, let alone try to commandeer Harvard. And thank God for Big Ten schools. I'm a Big Ten person. Ohio, love it. You know, go Buckeyes. Yeah. I don't like the team up north, but you know what? Hey, they're willing to say, we're going to stick with everybody. We're all in this together. So go blue on that one. Okay? All these people are starting to band together. We need to band together too. Right? We have DEI, loss of funding. We have threats that provoke past legislative actions like the Individuals with Disability Education Act or the Every Student Succeeds Act. Now, right now, it seems like anybody who's rich can get a decent education and the rest of you, tough. That act will be coming soon, I'm sure. And it's a total just kick in the teeth to so many professionals in not just education, but in so many professions, because the trades need educated people. The government really needs education. Well, I mean, I don't know if half of the people that are making these decisions could spell half of the words we could technically call them. Okay? And if it wasn't spelled out on signs for them, they probably wouldn't be able to. But if they can, they should thank an educator for teaching them how to read it. Okay? We are seeing the total destruction of public education and the educated American society. Okay? And it's not just the feds, right? It's at our state government too. Currently, House Bill 96 reduces funding for this upcoming year by 2/3 of what they're doing now. That is just crazy. We have 613 school districts in the state of Ohio, funded out of levy system. The state wants to cut 2/3 of its funding. Who do you think is going to pay for that? Joe taxpayer, right? Required funding from the state. They're going to shift the cost to the local districts. Oh, this isn't about you guys paying more. Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. The CAPS district, it's going to cap districts' cash revenues. I'll use my district as an example. I go to my board meetings, my board's sitting there going, how the heck are we financially responsible or fiscally responsible, and now we're going to get penalized? North Ridgeville is the biggest city growing in Ohio for the last 3 or 4 years. Obviously, they're going to store some money away, right, trying to pay for things that, like inflation, things that help, your building's supposed to be, $50 million building. By the time you get it built 4 years from now, it's 80. Well, the levy doesn't take into that account that extra increase. In my district, we have a 30% carryover. The state wants to penalize my district $15 million for having a 30% or more carryover. Our budget's $42 million a year. How the hell are they going to just say 40% of it, you know what, go on? How do you explain that to the taxpayers?
They're doing it to us.
Yeah, they're doing it to us. But again, what happens the next time levy comes around? No teacher ever faults somebody if they can't afford to pay for a levy. It's when we have a system that doesn't work, that forces you guys to take on more burden for stupidity that the school districts cannot control. Okay? So you have that scenario. Expanding public funding for private schools, right? Voucher systems, in the beginning, sort of like how the Bible starts, in the beginning, and then all kinds of stuff happens throughout. The voucher system wasn't set up for rich kids to not have to pay tuition. The voucher system was set up so that a child could have an equal opportunity somewhere else if their school district was failing. But our state never determined what failing actually was. They just said, all you have to do is not want to go someplace and we'll make it happen. And that started this downward spiral. We do not have failing schools around here. And if they are failing, they are trying their best not to. But we have a government and a funding system that doesn't help them get one leg up out of the ground before it cuts the other one off. Okay? Senate Bill 127 takes action against low-performing schools and automatically closes them. How does this work in our current system? I want to know, okay, I'll use some school districts that work. Say Sheffield Lake shuts down. Those kids have to be educated somewhere. But the money to educate them comes from Sheffield Lake taxpayers. If you send them to Lorraine, or you send them to Avon Lake, or you send them south, right, to Elyria, do those school districts get your taxpayer money? I'd like to know, because somebody needs to explain to me how this craziness works, because their idea of doing this had no foresight other than, well, they're ineffective, let's just shut them down. Well, how about a contingency plan? There is employment, because we have a lot of people making very, very unintelligent decisions and then hoping that it just slides by because they want a community of people who don't question what they do, just accept what they pass, and then all of a sudden, when the water is too high and you're too tired to swim, you wonder why, you get pulled down into the depths. They are doing this intentionally. Okay? So what this all boils down to is simple terms. It's what I call the reverse Robin Hood effect. We take from the poor, we subsidize the rich. Right? We ever hear that before in history? Let them eat cake. Right? Let them eat cake. Well, I think heads should roll. I mean, if I was a politician, public guillotines would probably not be a bad idea for, the most egregious offenses. But right now, I could be walking down the street, even though I could lawfully carry a gun. I don't, but I'm thinking about it because what's to say the next car that has ice on the side isn't going to pick me up, throw me into a car, put me on a plane, and send me to El Salvador. And I don't have shared ground calling, unfortunately. If my choice is Moreno or whoever else is in this Congress, right, or in this as our senator, if it's them, I'm done. My kids suffer. My kids suffer, not only my kids, my family, my students, my community, everybody. And it can happen, and it's been shown that it can happen. So, what do we need to do moving forward? Get involved and stand up for your rights when they are infringed upon. Inform yourself with truth and knowledge, not fiction, opinion, or propaganda. Attend public meetings like you're doing. I commend all of you for being here. Rallies, school board meetings, right? If you want to know what's going on in your school board meeting, show up to a meeting and ask. Because I can tell you, I've been to the last 7 years of North Ridgeville. I don't know, other than when they do student recognition, most every other meetings, maybe 1 or 2 people. It's like crickets, right? I mean, they honestly could play cornhole for 2 hours and nobody would know because nobody's there. Okay? I'm sitting there with them. And they're like, anybody have any questions? I'm just like, okay. All right. So attend public meetings, school boards, make your presence known. Bring back humanity. Okay? True Christ-like love for your neighbor. The common sense that we're missing. Mark Twain said, do what is right, it will astonish some and gratify the rest. Okay? Mark Twain, right? I'll say that again. Do what is right, and it will astonish some and gratify the rest. Okay? So ask. Ohio residents, it is up to us to not forget what is happening now and have short-term memory loss when it comes time to vote. This isn't about party lines. This is about what is right and what is wrong.
As we all know, this Department of Education it's going to decimate this country, and that's supposed to be our up and coming. So our next speaker will be, Let me just say two things. So I want to say one thing is, so if everybody's watching, we're talking about all this fiscal responsibility coming from Washington, D.C. I got an email from Bob Latta, because I do sign up on his piece. He said they're going to do a continuing resolution, which they did earlier on. They all voted for, which extended our government. I wish Senator Schumer would have stopped it. We probably should have had a government shutdown. It would have sent that message. Now they're going to do a thing called reconciliation. On reconciliation, all they have to do is come up with a simple majority of 51 votes in the Senate, and they're going to pass the House because they control the House. We have a $36 trillion deficit right now because our debt ceiling says we're at it, and we've hit our debt ceiling. The Senate bill has another $5 trillion added into that's going to come up, that reconciliation bill. The House bill has $4 trillion in it. That most likely is going to pass. It has to pass before September or the government shuts down. So the fiscal responsibility and all the money we save from DOGE, they're not worried about it. They're going to raise our debt ceiling to we'll just say $5 trillion. That's $41 trillion more. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're an independent. We cannot keep going into debt and debt and debt. We're paying more for interest than we're paying for what we can do. So if Latta talks about all this fiscal responsibility, it's not there, and we have to call them out on it. One last one, I'm turning this over to Robin. How many people in here live in Lorraine County? Okay, on Tuesday night, there's going to be a public hearing at the Lorraine County Administration Building. The county engineers are having a public hearing to put $5 more license plate fee tag on your license plate when you go. I don't think we're all worried about $5, but the piece is, a lot of cities and a lot of townships and a lot of places you already live in, and I'm going to take Lorraine, if anybody's here from Lorraine, currently pay $20 today. Everybody thought the ceiling was $20. The ceiling's been moved to $30 by the state legislature. Most likely, they are going to put that on. They won't vote on it until sometime in May, but there's going to be a public hearing. If anybody wants to come and hear about it, they should be there that day to see the public hearing. Last Tuesday they had one, and they've not done a good job, except for, I will say the newspaper did do a good job. They have a very good article out there. There were 2 people in attendance at that meeting to talk about that $5 license. It's at 4:30. It'll be at 4:30 at the County Administration Building. Now you think about that. It's going to raise $1.4 million. I think we should ask the plan where the money's going to go. They say it's going to go to bridges, roads, whatever. It should be designated to go there. It's going to be a non-vote. It's only going to be voted by the 3 commissioners. It will not be voted unless there's a referendum to overturn it. So they can implement that $5 license plate. Everybody thought they were going to exempt all these trailers. The only thing they're going to do on a trailer is if it's 1,000 pounds or less, you don't pay. Anything 1,000 pounds or more, you have to pay another $5 on your trailer. So I just think people should pay attention to it because probably most of the cities are not going to gain from it because their cities have already put their own on to do the work in their own cities. It's probably going to benefit outlying areas. And the plan is we got to do all these bridges. I do understand it. There is a positive to it if you listen to it. We can get matching funds. But if anybody just didn't listen here, the federal government is not going to be sending a lot of money to Lorraine County. I don't think they'll be sending much to the state of Ohio. The one other thing I would like to say is There was a judge here, it's a common pleas judge was here, she walked up and she talked to me. She told me that we got a very good ruling out of the 4th District Appeals today for the federal workers. I don't know what it is, Mike, but I'm gonna look into it. And then the other thing she said is in the one in the Supreme Court, she said something in there, what it says for now, they're allowed to get rid of temporary people, and there's supposed to be more forthcoming. The one thing that they did say at Supreme Court, which I don't agree with, is they said the unions did not have no standing to fight. And she thinks that that could hold up as we move forward. She thinks that Robert and Comey Barrett are going to come around to the right side. So with that, Robin, I'll turn that over. But I just think if you're in Lorraine County, show up at the meeting. If they see you at the meeting, you don't have to say a word. They understand what's going on once they see you. I attend most of them all. I ask them to get a breakdown for every township, every city, what everybody pays before they would. That's transparency, and that's how you show people. If they explain to you the $5 what they're going to do, and we think it's worth it, then it's a good thing. But we want to make sure they do the right thing with that money when they do it. So, Mike.
I did have a slide that we put up, and I want all of you to know that a lot of numbers you call, you don't already have. The DC number is 202-225-3876. Call early and often. He does have an area number. A lot of the district folks have given us trying to call this call. So, but call your whatever one you feel comfortable with. You don't need a script. You all know what's going on. You don't need a script. Tell them what's bothering you. There are a couple of service trees. The area number is 440-406-5010. Anybody need to give it a good? First one again is 202-225-6405. Thank you.
I'd like to bring up an app that's very helpful that a number of us are using. It's called Five Calls. And on Five Calls, you can get your representative and their phone number. And you do get a script, because I get so angry. If I wasn't reading that, I'd probably become very profane, and I'm sure they would not appreciate that. So I do read the script, and I either get a person or I leave a voicemail.
Thank you for that, yes.
Somebody also, like I said, you know what you're talking about when you make that call. Most of the time they don't answer. You get a voicemail, whatever. But let me tell you something. Every now and then, somebody calls you back. You want to have a script. You want to have something that when that phone rings, you've got it. You're on your phone. I keep it on my desk for each of the different representatives. And when they call, I've got a script, because when they call, you're like so confused, and you're like, what am I supposed to say? How does that?
This file is also a calendar, so it will list all of the information. Pick what you want. And then you put your list. And it will take you to your own representatives with all of their phone numbers. They will tell you what's happening with that issue, and then they will take it to the script. And you can use that, and you don't have to use the phone numbers there. You plug it in. And the important thing about that, though, is that you have somebody there address, because they have to report everybody that has called as long as they leave their address.
Right.
Thank you. Five calls.
I just want to repeat, that first number I gave was actually Max Miller's last four digits. So you can use, if you're in Miller's district, call him. But again, Latta's is the 225-6405. 202 is the DC number.
I heard someone had a personal cell phone. We should let that fly tonight, but we won't. Okay, real quick intermission. Those of you that you're in the Bricklayers Hall, you Labor Council here, our president, Ron Atkins is right here. We're going to have a fundraiser. It's their annual spaghetti dinner fundraiser. A lot of you here have been there. It's awesome. This one is going to be on May 4th at St. Cyril's Methodist Orthodox Church. It'll be from 12 to 3 p.m. Tickets are $25 a piece. Children and retirees are 10, and children 5 and under are free. If you would like to sponsor a table, they have 15 tickets for $250. And the platinum sponsor is 25 tickets for $500. So I would encourage you again to come and be part of that fundraiser, because the money that is raised during this fundraiser goes to working class endorsed candidates. All right, that's how we, Brian Baker, Sir Baker here is one of our endorsed candidates, and we'll be seeing him again. Okay, so I just wanted to say real quick, I know you've got a lot of stuff thrown at you. We have one last guest speaker here, and I thought he has an important story to tell. Elon Musk is trying to steal away our tax dollars that were supposed to go to his union organization. So without further ado, this is Ron Gay with CWA, Communication Workers.
My story is going to be quicker than some of the other ones, because I know we only have about 4 minutes left. Standing here and listening to everybody talk tonight just pissed me off all over again. So thank you to all the speakers, but also thank you to all the public servants that work for our federal government, for our state government, for our educators. So long story short, what Robin asked me to come talk about was, in 2021, when the bipartisan infrastructure bill was passed, there was $42 billion in there to spread internet access to parts of America that never had it. And the companies wouldn't invest in because it was too costly for them to make a business case. So my union represents communications workers, we represent public sector workers, we represent university workers, we represent manufacturing. We have people across the spectrum of employment. But one of our really large sectors is communications, so it was in our best interest to make sure that both the government in Washington, D.C. and in the states knew the benefits of investing in the proper telecommunications infrastructure, so they didn't end up with product that sucked, like many of you probably have at your homes and or businesses. 100 years ago, the telephone system was designed to let people communicate. And that telephone system worked for 100 years, up until very recently, where internet has taken things over, and now pretty much everything runs through the internet, including phone service. If you still have home phone service, if you have cell phone service, eventually that runs through the internet too. So working with the Biden administration, we made sure that they understood the technology. And the technology is the best thing to deliver long-lasting, good internet service to Americans is a fiber optic pipeline, right into your house. So the Biden administration understood that. They also understood that it made a big difference to workers to have that communications network built with union labor, with skilled labor, and with well-paid labor. So things were going great. But then, doing a big program like that, where you're trying to allocate $45 billion and make sure you don't build a network where there already is a network, right? You have to do your research. So the federal government went out and told the states, figure out where you need help, come back and tell us, we'll approve the plan. It took a little while. It took a couple years to get through that, and then the companies challenging, where people said there wasn't internet, so on and so forth. So at the end of last year, beginning of this year, we're actually at the point where the government is going to start awarding states money. Ohio's going to get about $800 million. Some states get upwards of $1 billion. But then, of course, the unthinkable happened, and President Trump was reelected, and they have a different theory on how to provide internet service to people, and it's basically their buddies, right? So the thought is, one way or another, Trump's new FCC guy is going to change the rules that the states have been planning for the last 3.5, 4 years. And one of the companies that's going to be eligible for these new rules, which will include satellite and
shortwave communications, right? I know you all figured it out before I even said it. Yeah, so Starlink, well, it may have its place, in things like this. It certainly shouldn't be the main way to bring internet to America. It's not fast, it's not reliable, and it costs a lot of money. Right, yeah, they may forward the information to Russia, who knows. So we've been lobbying both at the federal level and again at the state level to ensure that where we think we still have people that understand what the right thing to do is, that we try and resist these changes and hold them off as best we can. I would fully believe that something is going to get reevaluated and go the wrong way. But we'd like to protect most of this. So again, it's to keep workers working, keeping workers getting a good wage and benefits, and to try and do the right thing for Americans so they're not wasting $42 billion on shitty satellite communications. So I'll leave my story at that, except to say I left the flyer on every table. If you would all either go to the website, which is cwa.org, protect our work, or you can scan the QR code. Just please fill out the petition. It's only 3 lines long. Just ask for your name, your email, and cell phone. If you don't have an email, just put some nonsense in there and I'll figure it out whenever I get the results. But we're going to deliver those to Governor DeWine the second week of May. So if you would all do that and share it with your friends and neighbors via paper or text or word of mouth, I would greatly appreciate it. And I'll cut it there so that we can finish this up. But thank you all for your time. Thank you for being here. Doing something makes a difference. Please keep showing up.
I just want to say a big thank you to all of our speakers, Mike and Steve, Mr. Brian Baker, and Mike McMillan. We do have an activity, and you hopefully have gotten a piece of paper in front of you. It has Bob Latta's address on it, and the space above that will be your address, your name, your address. And there are several topics that we talked about, but you may have one already near and dear to your heart that you want to write to him, but we are hand delivering these letters. So we're asking before you leave today to make sure that you fill that out, give him what you want to say to him, and in whatever manner you want to. We're being respectful, but in the same token, they're not listening. So, I have a whole list of things that we've actually covered today. One of them, the United States Postal Service is under attack, just like Social Security. They want to privatize that. They've been sabotaging it since Trump 0.10. So anyways, I want you to keep that in mind too. They are fighting the fight of their life. Privatized postal services charge 2 and 3 times more than what we pay. And not only that, but right now our postal workers, a third of them are veterans, or military veterans. And they have good, it's a good job. You can raise a family on one income. You have good benefits, medical, retirement, and believe me, that will all kind of go to the wayside if they privatize that as well.